Good morning, cross country team. This is the um, last message that is going to apply to the whole team in terms of our week ahead. And I'm just starting on the Raceberry screen because we, of course, raced yesterday, and that's who does the timing for our conference. And I know I already did a little mini tutorial on this 2 videos ago or 2 weeks ago, but I'll just walk through where the results are and kind of give a just overview of what I kind of took away from the meet. So you go to cross country on Raceberry, and then that top live result, it's obviously no longer live, and eventually they'll move it down below into the list of results. But for right now, that's where it is. We raced session 1, and then 2 and 3 happened, and then they cataloged all the results together down in the compiled results for all sessions. And I just kind of want to walk through the results briefly and give my thoughts on them. So I'll click over to Varsity Girls. And I know it won't necessarily come through completely crystal clear, and you can certainly click in on it on your own. But, Varsity Girls, congratulations. We again won the conference championship, and you have extended our streak to a 5th straight year, which is just awesome. In fact, in the 8 years that the Metro East has existed as a conference, our girls have won 6 of those 8 conference championships. And this one was a close one, 40-45, not quite as close as our razor thin margin last year, but it was close. I mean, that 5 place points is not many, even in a small meet. And looking kind of stepping back and just looking at the race, I thought we went into it really well prepared. I thought you girls focused incredibly well, and you executed within the race. There's always times where a runner may think, oh, I could have done a little bit more, I wanted a little bit more. But big picture as a group, we just raced really, really well. And given everything that we've been through the last 6 months, the fact we were out there racing was a victory. The fact we won was a literal victory, but also a figurative one. In terms of awards, in the conference, there are only the varsity level awards. And in JV, there are actually only 2 teams in our conference with complete teams for JV. So that was Mahtomedi and Hastings. So we weren't able to have any team result there. But we had the top 13 runners get all conference, and it's top 13 at conference final, which means our top 6 girls, so Nina, Claire, Jalen, Nicole, Charlotte, and Camilla, all will receive an all conference plaque. So congratulations to you 6. And then the next 8 girls all receive an honorable mention, all conference honorable mention, and Daniela will receive an all conference honorable mention. So congrats to Daniela for that. So all 7 varsity girls took awards, which is just awesome. The fact that we've done as well as we have for so long with completely different mixes of girls every year just speaks volumes for how you all come together as a team each time, and what you learn from the group that came before you. There's a couple, just 2 races I want to mention within the girls, and I could go through each girl individually and kind of sing praises, but given my limitations on time, I'm just going to highlight 2. One is Camilla. Camilla's race. She's in the same position on the team for us this year that she was last year. Last year, she broke that narrow tie for us. This year, had it come to that tie, Camilla was well in advance of Mahtomedi's 6th runner. But more importantly, and really what growth as a runner is not necessarily how you did 2 weeks ago when we were at conference finals, but how did you do a year ago when we were out there at conference finals racing roughly at the same point in the season on pretty much the same course on pretty much the same weather. And I went through and looked at everybody's. Camilla's jumped out. She went a minute 56 faster this year. And that was a huge PR she had last fall when she ran that time. And so for Camilla to go under a 7-minute mile average, based on the progress we saw last fall, the progress we saw now, just speaks volumes to the work that she's put in. The next minute 56 that's a much harder minute 56 to get, but I have no doubt Camilla's going to put in the work to keep hammering away at that goal of continuing to drive her time down. And then the other big race jump forward was Charlotte. It's unquestionable when you look at the results. I mean, Charlotte was our 5th runner. She had 11 place points. Mahtomedi's 5th runner had 16. So Charlotte, beat Mahtomedi's equal runner for place by 5 points. That's how much we won by. Again, had it come down to a tie, Camilla would have broken it, but Charlotte had a huge impact on the race for us as a team. And to come in as a 7th grader and to kind of keep her poise and make a huge jump forward herself from 2 weeks ago. and to have the confidence to be able to push up and become an all-conference runner as a seventh grader is just phenomenal. And it was fun to see and rewarding to see just the growth that we've had as a team. As a group, what I did was I looked at, okay, the 5 girls who raced it last year, because unfortunately the course changed. It changed. It's, in my opinion, a slightly easier course than it used to be. Not by a ton. I would say maybe 20 seconds overall, maybe 30, but probably only about 20 seconds overall. But it is slightly easier than the old course we used to run. It's still challenging. It's still a great cross-country course. But our 5 girls, when you look at how did they do as a group last year versus this year, what growth did we have? We nearly got 2 minutes faster as a group, and you know, obviously a lot of that came from Camilla, but it was a push forward from our whole group to move forward together, and that's really rewarding to see, particularly given, again, the environment that we're in and the challenges we've all faced over the last year with training and preparation. So congrats, girls, on that. Shifting over to the boys race, so I'll click here, you can click data for boys. In the boys race, we also won, and that hasn't happened where we've won both conference titles for a few years. 2016 was the last time that happened, and then I can't recall before when it happened. And in the 8 years that the conference has been around for the boys, you know, the girls had won 6 times, the boys have won 4. So half of the Metro East Conference championships belong to us, which is pretty awesome. And you won in a very impressive fashion over St. Thomas, 41-51. Again, a tight race, really tight on time. If you parse out the time, you know, we dodged a bullet in terms of there weren't many more runners in the conference that were able to wedge themselves in the gaps up front, because those 2 front St. Thomas boys ran a great race. You know, I when looking at the race, you think, well, you know, you're never all going to have the best day on the same day. Rarely does it line up. And I think there's probably individuals who are thinking, you know, I'd like to have that one back and I can do a little bit better. And the good news is we get to do it again on Thursday, and quite likely we'll get to race against St. Thomas again on Thursday. But the truth of the matter is, you know, when I'm looking at that race, the 2 names that jump out are Thomas and Will. Thomas and Will ran with an incredible amount of heart and guts, and you could tell their mind was not so much around what they were doing for themselves, but what they were doing for the other boys. That it was really clear to me. And particularly Will's surge from the back to move from 2 weeks ago where he was within St. Thomas's group to where he needed to be for us to win. I mean, when you look at Will's place points, you know, Will scored 15, and the next St. Thomas guy scored 20. So that was a 5 gap, and then Thomas scored 7, and the next guy scored 12. That was a 5 gap. Those 2 boys were 10 points for us over their equivalent St. Thomas runner, and it was just a really impressive race of 2 senior guys pushing for the group. And then George was the other race that really jumped out. You know, George is a 7th grade boy. He's going to go up and down in terms of kind of figuring out how to race. There's going to be some days he's clicking, some days he's not, and he clicked yesterday. And over time, as you gain race experience, George will figure that out. He'll figure out how to make it more even, and there'll be less fluctuation. And we'll continue to see the growth that he's shown. But George picked us up 6, so George finished 10th to pick us up 6 place points. So those 3 boys together were worth 16 place points over St. Thomas, and that made the day. They won the race for us. And not that everybody didn't push and everybody didn't give it their all, but those 3 boys just in particular stuck out. When I look at the 4 varsity boys who ran a year ago and then ran again yesterday as a group, they dropped a little over a minute worth of time. And so that was Magnus, Xander, Thomas, and Will together dropped about a minute or a little more of time. The more impressive stat to me is if I shift over to the JV boys. Last year we were 5th JV boys. This year we were 2nd. St. Thomas went perfect this year. They went 1 through 5. They 15 pointed us. You're not going to respond to that. But you beat Mahtomedi by 3 points, and you beat Hastings by 8. So it went 70, 73, 78. And I'm going to jump over to the JV results. That to me was honestly our race of the day. The conference championships are great. They should be celebrated. You know, they've come along a lot for us recently, but we've had periods where we've had droughts and they just don't come, or we just don't show up on race day. And we did yesterday, but the JV boys, and I've talked with the boys group about this, you know, your 8th, 9th, 10th runners, they're the ones that are the engine. If you've got them on your team and they are pushing, they send a message to everybody that this is who we are. And without that, you can still do it. It's just harder, and they make it a heck of a lot easier to find that inspiration. We had 5 boys that raced a year ago, and I want to read through those 5. So that's Zach, Grant, Daniel, Luke, and Nicholas. Those 5 boys, when you put their times together from last year to this year, dropped nearly 9 minutes. That's almost 2 minutes a boy, and some of them bigger drops than others. But man, that is some impressive growth. In all, several of them hammering at the door of big breakthroughs. But when you're looking at 2-week growth, so you're talking about 2 weeks ago versus now, it's harder. You're not going to grow a ton as a runner. You'll gain some race experience and maybe meet the challenge a little bit better. But in truth, it's what have you done year over year, and that speaks volumes. Those guys trained in a different way than they trained the year prior, and that's really the secret for all of you: varsity, JV, boy, girl, 7th grader, 12th grader. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter if you're in the boys team, on the girls team. It doesn't matter if you're varsity, JV. If you put in training time, you will improve. Period. End of story. That's what happens. You have to do other things right, like be ready to show up on the start line, hydrate well, have good nutrition, get good sleep. Little things have to click too. But over time, the athletes that shy away from training in the off season and only focus on in season, at best tend to plateau, and just kind of demonstrate what their capability is by the end of the season each time, and it looks roughly the same, or maybe goes a little down or a little up, but more or less the same. The athletes that make the big jumps forward are the ones that have invested in a different way. And the truth is, you take a guy like Grant. Grant dropped nearly 3 minutes. The next 3 minutes are going to be harder to get, a lot like we said with Camilla's jump. But I have no doubt Grant's going to put in the work to attempt to get there. And he may. It'll take longer than 1 year to shift 3 more minutes, but eventually that shift will come. So congrats to those boys. Congrats all around. I just thought the boys' overall race was just exceptional for JV. Patrick to have his shoe pop off, still go under 20 minutes. Pretty awesome. Nice to see Jackson notching a nice PR. Charlie ran an incredibly strong race. Oliver, was just hammering through. Isaac ran a great race. And again, I can list off, and I have all this processing in my head, but ultimately I have 15 minutes, and I'm running up against that. This week, on Monday, so tomorrow, everybody needs to bring a jersey or uniform with you unless you are in the varsity 7. If you are varsity 7 boys or varsity 7 girls, keep your jerseys. You're going to need them for Thursday. But if you're in any of the other groups, so girls, boys, no matter what wave you were in, except for those varsity waves, please bring your uniform with you. And tomorrow's your last practice with us. We'll still do our virtual banquet, and we'll talk more about that in the final video I send out. But that's it for everybody. We do this every year where we end conference. This year it's just a little tighter turnaround. Varsity group, we'll do our run tomorrow, and we'll get everybody pink shirts tomorrow, our end of season shirts, whether you're a varsity or a JV, so whether your jersey comes in or not. And then Tuesday varsity, we're going to run a very mild workout. It'll be high speed but really low reps. And then Wednesday we just do a pre-meet day, and Thursday we compete. And we'll have a time schedule for Thursday by tomorrow, but we don't have one yet. Boys will race in the morning, girls will race in the afternoon. Temps look a little cooler for that race day, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get closer. Then Friday there will be no practice. Saturday, Sunday, no practice. The following Monday, no practice. So there will be a big brick of 4 days off. That following Tuesday, then, we will have our final kind of jersey turn in, and if anyone wants a fast race on the track, we've asked to reserve the track. I don't know about the infield, but we've got the track. And so if anyone wants to, they can. I thought a lot about Mad Dog this week, and I've only got about a minute to award it. And obviously we'll award it tomorrow. But it's going to go to Luke Segura this week. Luke didn't have the day he wanted to yesterday. He had about a year's worth of stress happen to him in 1 week. I asked him if he was sure he wanted to race. He said, "Yep, I do." And he went in there, and amazingly, even though he's probably not happy with the result from a time standpoint, he improved over a year ago. So given the week he's been in, and I'll let him chat with you about it, but he really stuck out to me as just what it looks like to be strong, what it looks like to be brave. And in all honesty, that's what our sport's about. The time on the clock is less important than the work put in to get there, and hard work has a look to it. And I saw it in Luke Segura this week. So Luke, congratulations, and we'll see everybody tomorrow again with uniforms ready to go.